I think I'm gonna go with C, but I could be wrong. When we think of the Great American West, we think of outlaws and lawmen who took justice into their own hands. The good guys wore the badge and the hats. The bad guys didn't. Now, there are plenty of people in history who fit this description, but perhaps none are as infamous as Wyatt Earp. This guy was a true legend. But what is the truth behind the legend? Was he a fearless lawman who cleaned up the streets of Dodge City and Tombstone? A small mining town that refused to give up its gold without a fight? And it wasn't because he was well-behaved or anything like that. Wyatt was back in Dodge City, where he'd been declared an outlaw. He was a key figure in the famous shootout at the Corral in 1881. During the gunfight, Wyatt and his associates killed 3 members of the Clanton gang and one of their associates. Now, the details surrounding this shootout are still debated today, but one thing is certain: Wyatt survived unscathed. He would later claim that he fired 20 shots during the shootout, hitting all 3 of his targets. But those claims were probably exaggerated. Still, it was an impressive feat, especially considering that Wyatt was outnumbered 3-1. Now, he then spent some time prospecting for gold, but that didn't pan out either, so he returned to law enforcement. This time, he became the sheriff of a small town called Bowie, where he stayed until 1885. He might have gotten away with it. He tried his hand at gambling and saloonkeeping, but those businesses didn't last long. Well, I think it depends on when you caught up with him. He was just a man who did what he had to do to survive in the lawless frontier of the American West. Do you think Wyatt Earp was a hero or a villain? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm the host, this has been the channel, and I'll see you next time. In his early days, Wyatt was a typical Western outlaw. He robbed stagecoaches and trains, and he wasn't above stealing from his friends. But later in life, he turned to law enforcement and became one of the most feared lawmen in the West. So I guess it depends on which era of Wyatt Earp you saw. If you saw him in his younger years, you might have thought he was just another ruthless killer. But if you saw him later on, you might have thought he was the greatest lawman of all time. Wyatt then moved to California, where he married his longtime friend, Josephine Marcus. They lived in Los Angeles until Wyatt's death in 1929. You see, Wyatt had made so much money in Deadwood that he was able to bribe just about everyone except for one man, Bat Masterson, and he was unhappy that Wyatt had stolen from him during the robbery of the Bella Union Saloon. When Masterson heard that Wyatt had returned to Dodge City, he went straight to the sheriff and told him all about it. Wyatt was arrested again and sent back to prison to finish out his sentence. No, he escaped twice. His first escape came just 4 months into his sentence, when he convinced the other inmates that there was a fire in the jail, and they all needed to evacuate immediately. While the guards were distracted, Wyatt and a few of his accomplices slipped out the back door and disappeared into the night. His second escape was even more audacious. He simply walked out the front door after bribing the jailer. When Wyatt and his gang of about 20 men showed up in Deadwood, they found themselves surrounded by armed townspeople. The two sides exchanged fire, killing several people before Wyatt and his men retreated. He realized that being an outlaw wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. There were, after all, things worse than prison, like prison, and as his release date approached, Wyatt began planning his next move. He knew that he couldn't go back to Dodge City. If he wanted to stay alive, he decided to head west to Tombstone, Arizona, where he became a deputy sheriff. They were chased all the way back to the railroad tracks, where they abandoned their wagons and fled on foot. Wyatt had been captured. Or was he just another notorious outlaw? Let's find out. Born in 1848, Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp grew up in Illinois and moved to Kansas in his early 20s. There, he met up with his brother Virgil, and they decided to try their luck in the booming town of Dodge City, Kansas, a place known for its saloons, gambling, and brothels. And this is where Wyatt first made a name for himself. He wasn't a lawman yet, not officially anyway, but he did work as an assistant jailer under his brother. But that didn't stop him from cleaning up the streets of Dodge City. Now, Wyatt hated crime, or at least that's what he said. In reality, he had a knack for it, and was pretty good at it too. He robbed stagecoaches and trains. When he wasn't busy working as a jailer, he worked as a scout for the Kansas Pacific Railroad, which gave him the perfect opportunity to rob passing trains. However, he never went so far as to spill blood, even if it meant losing money. That was how he earned the nickname Cool Wyatt Earp. And he was also known for his ability to handle a gun. People say he could shoot the ace of spades out of a deck of cards at 20 paces. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but one thing's for sure, Wyatt was a crack shot. In 1876, when Wyatt left Dodge City for Deadwood, South Dakota, he left behind a list of victims and potential enemies. So when he arrived in Deadwood, he got right to work, stealing everything in sight. Apparently, he even stole from friends. He started by robbing the Bella Union Saloon, then moved on to the hotels, and finally to the banks. He was so brazen that he even robbed a train full of US soldiers. It was like he wasn't even trying to hide anymore. But his luck ran out when he tried to rob the Carlin. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for his crimes in Deadwood, but only served 3. In 1879, it was around this time that Wyatt began to change his ways. It was here that Wyatt really made his name. After the shootout, Wyatt continued to work as a lawman in Tombstone, but he eventually resigned after he was accused of taking bribes. After that, Wyatt's law enforcement career came to an end. So was Wyatt Earp a fearless lawman, or just another notorious outlaw? Of course, the truth is somewhere in between. Wyatt wasn't a saint, but he wasn't a monster either.